You may have heard me once or twice mention that my wife and I, before she could get pregnant, over 13 years ago, did foster care to this. We had this little girl, Victoria, and then after that, we had these two boys, Kevin and Cordero. And anyways, when I've said it before, but I, get new subscribers, I got to tell the story briefly. The foster care system, you got to go through a process and you got to learn how to do stuff. And, you got to be taught how to be a parent by the system. Even though you might already be a parent, whether or not, doesn't matter. You got to go through our procedures and nonsense. And one of the things that they told us, I found shocking. Shook me to my core. Be aware that the children sometimes will make up stories so that their parents can get them back, or at least that's what they think. The parents will tell them to make up these stories so that the parents think that they could get them back. In the stories, well, they'll say that the foster parents were inappropriately touching them, or, that kind of thing. A young child has come to you people and said that this has happened to them, and you now have a policy that says we expect this because we think the parents are telling the children to say that because the parents want their kid back and think, well, what I was doing wasn't nearly as bad as what's happening to my child in their care, so give me my kid back. Yeah. I would never tell my child, honey, I did something bad. I'm in trouble. Me and mommy are in trouble. You're going to have to go into foster care for a while. I promise we'll shape up and get you out of there as soon as possible. But since you're in there, I will need you to tell the foster care people after you've been in someone's house for a few days that they touched you, blah, 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 blah. Like, can you imagine having that conversation with and I mean, these kids are young, 5 years old, 3 years old, 6 years old, 8 years old. They're typically not teenagers, by the way. I thought that was quite disturbing to hear that. Very much so. And thought to myself instantly, do I think that there's parents that would do that? I mean, sure, there's some dirtbags out there. But for it to become policy that they teach, the foster care system teaches the potential parents, this could happen to you, so be careful. And, like the child might say this against you. None of those kids we had said that against us. I can assure you that. Well, I would have already known by now. There'd have been some kind of investigation. No. Having said that, epochtimes.com. Trump administration asks for comments, to start with comments, on child sex trafficking in the foster care system. Dated October the 4th, 2019. Today's the 6th. How long ago can you recall the first time, if you've been following me for a long time, that I might have mentioned that little foster care tidbit about, the kids say they're sexually touched and blah, blah, blah. And I said, if you're an effing pedophile, you don't have to drive around in a van. Hey, you want some candy? Get in the van. No. Just sign up for foster care, pass the nonsensical course that any moron can pass. You'll pass with flying colors, and then they will bring you kids. And at any time, you can say, this kid's really difficult to parent and deal with. I'm tired of this kid. Can I have another kid? Yeah, sure. So they'll take that kid from your house, give it to somebody else. As in the kid, to someone else. You'll get a new kid. Maybe a different age, different ethnic background, whatever. What's the flavor of the day, so to speak, or flavor of the week? You could literally have kids in and out of your house weekly, sometimes daily. And as foster parents, if you're approved foster parent, you can get with each other and say, hey, I need a break for a couple of days or a day or whatever. Can we drop our kids off with another foster parent to have a little, whatever, kind of like dropping your kids off at your friend's house while you and your wife go on a date or whatever. And then they could do that. So imagine dropping Imagine passing these kids around. The parents, oh, we got caught smoking marijuana, 3 times. You're going to have to deal with that. Kids are put into foster care and then are sexually assaulted because you were smoking pot or something. That's what's happening. I'm not going to say that I know what's happening every time, No. There are some good foster parents out there. I can raise my hand and so can my wife. Trump administration asks for comments on child sex trafficking in the foster care system. Washington, the Trump administration's Department of Health and Human Services is putting out a call for whistleblowers and concerned citizens to come forward to discuss child sex trafficking in the foster care system. The National Advisory Committee on the Sex Trafficking of Children and Youth in the United States has discussed vulnerabilities of children and youth who have interacted with foster care systems and is working on recommendations for professionals in these settings. We encourage everyone with specific ideas or recommendations to submit them in writing for the members' consideration. And here's a little link, whatever. The committee exclusively told the Epoch Times on Friday, October 4th, the day the committee held a public meeting on ways to combat child sex trafficking. You don't suppose we're going to hear about, at some point in the future, not probably too far out, oh my God, it's worse than we thought. Child Protective Services was not only doing this, but was finding victims, and we're going to go get those kids. We want those kids in here for our friends. And their friends are the pedos. And if anybody tries to stand up to them, grab their kids. All they need is a neighbor or, anonymous person called in and said, you were doing such and such with your kids. We're going to send CPS over. We're going to interview the kids. It only takes one anonymous call. That's it. An anonymous, again, this is whistleblower, third-hand account. Well, my neighbor said, that's all it takes. And could you imagine if we hear it was an effing corrupt system that helped very few people at all, and the mass majority were victims of some type of abuse, sexual or otherwise, within the CPS foster care system. It was an actual system. Take the kids out, we get paid, we get our bonuses, we get stuff, and shove them over there. It's hard for a man to tell the truth when his job depends upon him not telling the truth. We need victims. Without victims, we have no job. And again, you get the right person in there that's part of the Hillary and John Podesta club. And next thing you know, you have a trafficking network designed not to protect kids, but to exploit them and take them from their parents over petty nonsense. Now, I'm not going to say that there's some times where those kids need to be taken out because it's just horrible conditions. I understand that. But again, if we look at stats kind of like, oh, well, we got a terrorist attack, 9/11. Now everyone has to be patted down forever, lose your rights forever. Well, hold on. How many people died on 9/11? 3,000. Okay. Before 9/11, well, we didn't really have a 9/11 like that. We did have the Murrah building, Oklahoma. Okay. And again, I would challenge you to see who actually pulled that off. Like the CPS thing, you might find that government officials were involved. Meaning there were no terrorists from outside. They were actually within. But let's just pretend that it was real. We're all in agreement that it was all real. There's nothing to question. 500,000 people, those are stats are a year ago. Let me just look it up now. How many people die of heart disease each year? It used to be 500,000. I'm glad I looked. I'm glad I got the stats. It's now 610,000 people. 610,000, more than 500,000 people, die of heart disease in just our country, and that's what we're talking about, the United States, every single year. That is 1 in 4 deaths. 1 in 4 deaths. Heart disease is the leading cause of death for both men and women. More than half of the deaths due to heart disease in 2009 were in men. So what do we do about that? Oh, we got to set up security. We got to have blood tests everywhere. You can't walk. No, they don't seem to care about that. 3,000 people died one time. If you start adding up anything that's even kind of terrorist related in this country, 2 people shot here, 5 people, whatever, just add that stuff up. You can't even hold a candle to the 610,000 people that die of heart disease. Think about that. Therefore, as weird as it might sound, it makes more sense to just say we live with terrorism today's day and age. So you stand a better chance of, winning the lottery than getting, something like that. Don't worry about it. That's what the numbers tell us. But when they put fear in your face, there could be a bomb in the bus. There could be my kid, I don't want them going to the nightclub anymore. There might be a shooting at a nightclub. Movie theaters, I don't want them going in there because there was a shooting there one time. And again, I would urge you to check who's really responsible for some of these things if you're willing to do the research yourself. Having said that, doesn't make sense, does it? Therefore, the child or children in that one instance of a home where they should probably be taken out of the home and the parents should probably be brought out back and shot, it's still a minor statistic in the big scheme of things, where we're not going to take kids from their parents anymore, and that's that. For little drug charges or this, they're better off in their house with their crappy parents than in the foster care system where they're being peddled to abusers who know I'm going to join that so I can get these kids right to my house behind closed, locked doors. We got a problem in this country, and it's called fear. And the powers that be get you by fear. They can show you one case of massive abuse, and all of a sudden we'll be begging them to take our children from us. And again, who decides what you have done wrong and if that qualifies to take your children from you? It ain't you. It's not your surrounding neighbors or friends. It could be an pretend neighbor, anonymous, that calls in, and all of a sudden, they're going to go investigate. Some places, it turns into, the crime allegedly happening was so severe, we just kicked the door in and went to go take the kid. The kid had a fever. The hospital said the kid had a fever, except when we grabbed them and kicked the door in and take the kid back to the hospital, it was actually kind of close to normal. Right, the parent determined that on their own and said, leave me alone, you're not coming into my house. And they broke the door down. This is a story from a few years ago. To take the kid, and they found out, the kid wasn't that bad after all. So you should have let the parent decide. Yeah, correct. Right, so who gets to tell us what we can and can't do, right? This is why freedom massively should outweigh your personal concerns for quote-unquote security. Take care.